bit about kind of who we are. Steamboat Springs Transit, you know our buses, you see them running around every 20 minutes. We have a little show and tell out here every 20 minutes that'll come by. But we are a pretty large organization. We have 21 full-time drivers. We hire about 25 seasonal drivers. The majority of those are for the winter service. We have 4 mechanics, 4 supervisors, a training and safety supervisor who handles all the training of the new drivers, training of the existing drivers, and also handles a lot of the federal drug and alcohol programs that we have to deal with, and then we have 2 administrators. Our fleet is made up of 6 30-foot diesel buses. Those were built between 1997 and 1999. Those are being retired hopefully here in the next year or so as we get additional buses in to replace those. Lifespan of a heavy-duty transit bus is about 12 years. So what we do is we try and do a refurbish of the bus after it's reached its lifespan to try and get an additional 5 or 6 years out of the bus. We have 6 35-foot long diesel buses. Those are currently being refurbished. We have 2 that have been refurbished, and we have 4 additional ones in the process of being refurbished right now, and then 3 more to go. Those are being done down in Lamar, Colorado, so it's kind of a nice ability to keep the monies in the state for that. We have 4 45-foot long diesel regional buses. Those are the ones that you see traveling back and forth to Craig. They look like the Greyhound buses. We have 3 29-foot hybrid buses and 3 35-foot hybrid buses. We also have an additional 35-foot hybrid that's on order, will be delivered here in January, and then 2 additional ones that are in the process. Our 35-foot hybrid buses will take the place of the 30-foot diesel buses. The challenge with ordering a bus is it takes about 18 to 24 months between when you place an order and when you receive the bus, so it takes a while to get the vehicles. We have 2 crew cars that we use for both our paratransit service and also to transport our drivers back and forth between the office and the buses out here. We have a paratransit van. We have 3 facilities here in Steamboat at the Stockbridge, the Transit Center, and then over in Craig we have 3 park and rides that we have. 1 at the Craig facility, 1 here at the Stockbridge, and then 1 that we just completed over on the east side, kind of over by Holiday Inn there. So that's a little bit about the capital that we have. A little bit about what we do. Last year we operated just under 43,000 hours of service, 634,000 miles of service that we put on. We carried just under 1.1 million local passengers. That is roughly 10% of the rural ridership for the state of Colorado and roughly 1% of the rural ridership for the United States. So carried quite a few people, just over 27,000 with our regional program and 1,500 with our paratransit program. In the summer we start at 6:30 and we pull our last bus in at midnight. In the winter we start at 5:50 and we pull our last bus in at 3:30 in the morning. Our operating budget is about $2.7 million. A lot of that will come from the general fund. We also get federal grants for both operating and also for our capital. This is just a graph showing our local ridership. Starting 91, just a little over 500,000 passengers, to where we're at right now at 1.1. Just a couple of days ago, we passed our 750,000 passengers for 2014. So we're on our way to probably increasing that. You can see our peak year in 2008 with about 1.3 million passengers. This is our regional ridership. If you look at this chart, it looks almost identical to the local economy. So had growth, and then that stopped in 2008. The little spike there also coincided with the cost of gasoline. So our ridership went up then, has dropped down, but is steadily growing back up. And we've really seen quite a bit of growth in our regional program. A large part of that, I believe, is due to the new buses that we offer, and that people definitely enjoy riding in those buses quite a bit more than the old ones. Those ones you had to kind of wrap yourself in a blanket while you traveled across. The new ones, we have to teach our drivers to make sure that they go through the bus after they get to Steamboat or when they get to Craig to make sure there's nobody sleeping on the bus, make sure and wake them up and get them up. So that's a huge improvement. Talking a little bit about some of the economic driven environmental changes that we have. The main thing is that our budget has stayed relatively flat over the years. The cost of fuel and the cost of components has gone up dramatically, so we've had to do quite a few cost-cutting measures to stay within the budget. One of the ones that we've used is buying the diesel-electric hybrid buses. We're getting between a 10 and 15% improvement on mileage on those buses. It averages out to about 12% improvement. And that's versus our regular buses. But on the new hybrids, we've also added things like air conditioning and other electrical things that take more power. So there's actually a very good improvement on that. The hybrid buses have smaller engines. The engine's basically the same engine that you would find in a large pickup truck. So it uses less fluids, the filters are smaller, that kind of thing. Plus it's frankly an easier, we don't have to stock as many parts because it's a fairly common engine. Also, we've done electrification of accessories, so there's not a strain on the engine. Electric cooling fans, air conditioning, that kind of thing. We run a 5% blend of biodiesel. We do that in the summer. The 3 coldest months in the winter, we go with regular, just strict diesel. But in the summer months and spring and fall, we can run the biodiesel. We found that to be an excellent option when they went to low sulfur. That fuel was damaging engine components. You put the biodiesel back in, 5% blend, and it actually helps take care of the engine components. So we've seen a reduction in cost of that. Waste oil heaters, we have waste oil heating in our storage facility and mechanics facility that enables us to use all the oil that we generate and also the oil generated by our public works department and use that to heat the bays. So that's greatly cutting the cost. We put in-floor heating into our newest storage. A lot of the thawing that we have to do naturally occurs on the underside of the bus, so having the in-floor heating, we're able to lower our costs, lower the temperature inside the bus bay just to keep that area warm. We've also put in circulating fans so that, hot air rises, we can blast that back down and trap that underneath the buses to help thaw it out. We reverse the fans in the summertime so we don't have to run air conditioning for our mechanics, and it keeps the area nice and cool, and you definitely want to keep your mechanics very happy. That's one of the keys. We've also put in a lot of skylighting so we can use natural light. We put in motion sensing lighting in our facilities over at the transit center so that we no longer have to leave the lights on. When it senses a bus coming through or a person coming through, the light turns on automatically. We do use it for a little bit of recreation, riding bicycles through there at night to see the lights turn on. Cheap entertainment, but I will admit to that. We have repainted our floors and walls to a very light color so that we don't have to have accessory lighting. We can just pull in the natural lighting and reflect that off the floor and walls. And then we've installed a new bus washing machine that enables us to recycle about 70% of the water that's used in a wash cycle. Really the only new water that we use is on the final rinse cycle, then we recapture that and use that as well. So those are some of the things that we've done. We have looked at alternative fuel options. Go through these real quickly. We looked at clean diesel, battery electric, diesel electric, and compressed natural gas. Just finished up this study here in the last year. And one of the important things for us is we wanted to look at it in the steamboat environment. We were getting a lot of information, but for example, it was done in Seattle. relatively warm climate at sea level doesn't translate very well to Steamboat Springs. So we wanted to look at this in the steamboat environment. With diesel, there were several things that were good with diesel. It's definitely the lowest capital cost of diesel bus is about $380,000 to $400,000. So it's the cheapest vehicle. The concern with it is fuel volatility. You just don't know what fuel prices are going to do. Well, you know it's going to go up, but you don't know how much. There was no significant gain in doing electric accessories as well. The next one that we looked at was a battery electric, and there was actually a company based out of Colorado that runs these battery electric buses. It has a charge rate of about 10 minutes to give you 3 hours worth of use, so we were going to put a charging station here and up at the Gondola Transit Center. The bus would pull in, would charge up, and then be able to continue for up to about 3 hours. And the 3 hours is here in a steamboat environment where you're running a lot of heat and a lot of lights. Some downside, highest vehicle costs. The cost of an electric hybrid or battery electric bus is just under $1 million. So quite a bit more expensive. You're also looking at a battery replacement about every 6 to 10 years. And the battery replacement cost is about $95,000. You also have some scheduling challenges just because you do have to make sure that you are recharging the bus. And then for our mechanics here, they're unfamiliar with the technology, so there's a lot of training involved with that. Next is the diesel-electric hybrid, 12% reduction in fuel costs. You don't have to do any infrastructure because we've already been running diesel buses. One of the things that we found that's very nice, can actually be a little bit of a problem, is they're very quiet. It's very nice for the neighborhoods that we travel around. But on LinkedIn, it's not uncommon for people to just kind of step out in front of the bus because they didn't hear it. So we're thinking of putting a speaker system underneath with like a Ferrari sound. You can do the electrification of accessories. In fact, now pretty much everything is electrically driven. And that really helps the engine because you're not stressing it every time the air conditioner turns on or the cooling fans turn on. Fuel prices are volatile. Capital costs are higher. Diesel-electric hybrid is about $575,000 to purchase. And then you have the potential battery replacement costs, although what we're finding with the hybrids is that if you take care of them, and the easiest way that you can take care of them is to keep them warm at night and also make sure that they are charged and that the driver doesn't turn off the charging system and allow the battery to completely run out. So as long as you do those two things, we've been talking to other transit agencies, and they're getting through the full life cycle, if not more, with the one set of batteries. We looked at compressed natural gas as well. Obviously, in this area, there's a lot of CNG. The real downside to CNG is just the infrastructure cost that we would need to switch over to CNG. If I was starting a transit system right now, I would recommend CNG because of the accessibility here. The downside, though, is that we would have to change all of our storage, our fueling facilities, our mechanics. When we looked at it a few years ago, you also need to change out your buses. And it was about a $12 to $14 million expenditure to switch transit over to CNG. So it's just that capital cost initially. Buses are a little more expensive. They're about $450,000 a piece. Mechanics are unfamiliar with the technologies, but in talking with RAFTA, which has just set up a very successful CNG system, the mechanics came on board very quickly. So it's just the initial capital costs that are an expense. We also did look at some other systems, diesel hydraulic, which is you basically have 2 tanks of fluid, and as you slow down, it forces from one tank to the other, and then as you accelerate, it forces back through it. Kind of think of it as a rubber band. Those are real successful in the cutaway vans. So we have looked at that. also propane, hydrogen fuel cell, all electric, which would be the buses that you see with the wires, overhead wires. In Europe, they're actually doing something with water, where they're separating water into oxygen, hydrogen, and then running generators off of that. We're a little ways away from that. And naturally, thinking of Bike Town, USA, we've got the which is we're not sure about serving the drinks on it. And I think if you get a double-decker, you get four-wheel drive. But you may have seen these down in Denver. We've had to be a whole new, economic thing for the nighttime around here. You go out, you drink, and then you wait for the bus. Here, you can do it all at the same time. So that's a little bit about SST.